Hi and welcome to another 5-minute tutorial. This week we are doing turnable dials. Does Corey want to just quickly demo this? So you can turn it up to 100 and it can be used for lights and things and just about anything. Sound or lights is probably the most common usage. Relatively easy setup. So I've just got in this scene some walls and whatnot and a dial. Now the dial's made up of an anchor point, which is basically just a cube in here. It's just a cube like that. And then the dial itself, which is just a circle with a little cube in to, make it look sort of like a dial. Now this needs to be in an empty game object that's the pivot point. So you could use this for levers and have the pivot point set somewhere else, but because it's a dial, the pivot's just set to the center. The interesting fun stuff is the hinge joint effectively. You can just attach it and then you attach the anchor to the connected rigid body, and that's where you then set the anchor to be for like either a lever position or the center or wherever you want it to rotate around. Now to get it to go between two numbers I use limits, but the limits in Unity aren't very good, so I go between 0 and a little bit above where I want it to be. So I want it to go between 0 and 90, which is basically that position and sort of there somewhere. And that should do that. The dial script deals with basically turning the horrible numbers that Unity uses for angles into something vaguely helpful. So because this dial rotates on the y-axis, because that's the one I set it to apparently, I then take the value of that and minus it from 360 to get a value, and then I do some other stuff that basically caps it at 0 and 90, and then I turn that number into effectively a percentage and either churn it out to the screen or make it between 1 and 0 for a light, so you can scale it and do stuff to it to affect things. To actually interact with the dial, it looks a lot more complicated than it is, but this is basically the script from the first tutorial to pick stuff up. It works in exactly the same way, so you can go back and watch that if you want to know that, except there's a little ball added to tell when you're near the dial or not near the dial. So when your trigger is detecting the dial, you set near to be true so that you can interact with it, and then when you exit it you set near to be false, and then in the update you just check whether near is true or false and drop object or don't. Easy enough. Corey wants to have another play. Dimmer switch. Thanks for watching. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe for more.